Good morning, everyone. Today it's a real pleasure to be speaking with Dr. Quinton Hennigh. Amongst other things, he's a special advisor to Crescat Capital. And we're going to talk about four companies in particular that have been doing exceptionally well. And they're each at different stages as well in their journey and in their overall story. But let me give you a little bit of background here. Of course, most of you that have been watching the channel know who Dr. Quinton Hennigh is. But for you that are new, this is an economic geologist with over 30 years experience in exploration. He's worked at some of the big majors, whether it's Newmont, Newcrest, Ivanhoe Mines, been involved in plenty of significant gold and precious metals discoveries worldwide. But also he is the geological and technical advisor to Crescat Capital, where he is key in providing insight into the strategy, identifying and supporting high potential exploration projects. And of course, we'll give a shout out to Crescat Capital, of course, because that is a global macro asset management firm headquartered in Denver, Colorado. They've got a number of fantastic hedge funds for people to participate in. And of course, many of you know Tavi Costa, who we've have on often, who is very well known out there, spreading the word, talking about macro environments, and he's very well liked and well respected too. So quite the team here at Crescat, and it shows in the four stories we're going to talk about today. So once again, real pleasure to have Dr. Hennigh on. How's it going overall, Dr. Hennigh? How are you?
Always a pleasure, Andrew, and yeah, doing well. A lot of exciting things happening in the exploration space. I really feel like we're finally in a bull market in this cycle. It's been a long time coming. It's always
Yeah.
there's always a shadow of a doubt, a nagging feeling, maybe this will end tomorrow, but I don't know. Everything seems pretty resilient lately. So doing well.
That's what we want to hear, because sometimes we just scratch our head and go, oh my God, when's this going to happen? But then when you look back at some of the stories, a lot has happened. Some of these have done quite well. And certainly the four we're going to talk about. And let's start off with Snowline, because that one arguably is the furthest ahead. Lots of news this summer, lots of growth. This, a district scale play in Yukon, in the Selwyn Basin, which is home to multi-million ounce systems and deposits. They've got the Valley deposit on the Rogue project, a near surface low strip bulk tonnage intrusion related gold system, IRGS. We talked about different systems with Goliath. What's your takeaway this year of Snowline? It's had a wonderful couple of years, but what's your kind of take now that we're at the tail end of summer? What's happening with them?
Yeah, they always deliver on what they say they're going to do, and that's really impressive. I mean, it's tough as a junior mining company. But these guys are going to do that every single. It just so happens their team. But what they are is people research and this is robust in those phase.
Sorry, Dr. Hennigh, I don't mean to cut you off, but your audio has gone here. It's we're not catching your audio right now. Perhaps maybe if you could restart and enter in again, because it's just it's just caught off there. And maybe I'll kind of yammer on about Snowline a little bit. Well, hopefully we can get that the audio fixed up again a bit here. But I know that they did the PFS here, some key milestones here. Or sorry, PEA.
Okay, are we back in there?
There we go. Yeah, we got you.
I gotta say everything's great until it's not, right? So
yeah.
Okay. Apologize for that. I don't know.
Nope.
Everything seems to be charged and full bars and everything, so I'm not sure what happened.
We're doing all right.
Okay, let's back up here. So again, the company has delivered every step of the way. They've done the work, the hard yards that a company with a discovery like this needs to do. They've demonstrated that they're fully capable I did speak with Craig Hart last week. He was actually here in Colorado at a conference, and I was able to talk to him. Craig is part of their technical team. He's definitely a driver of the geologic vision, but he's also part of the technical team that now has to advance this to become a mine. And I really have a good sense right now of where they're at, where the headspace is at. I've also seen Scott recently, about 5 or 6 weeks ago. I was in the Yukon and was able to talk to Scott about their exploration this summer, what their goals are. And I think, we're seeing some really exciting news on that front as well. So I'm going to kind of step through this. Look, they put out their updated resource and their PEA in over the past couple of months. So we're now over 9 million ounces M&I, which is just incredible. It's very consistent, very well-behaved deposit. And the economics of the PEA absolutely, shoot the lights out. I mean, this has got to be one of the most robust gold projects, undeveloped gold projects in inventory in the entire gold universe right now. All right, so that's all great. But where do we go from here? Well, as you see from recent news, they've added a number of key technical people to the company that clearly show they have intent and ability to take this to the next stage, meaning through a PFS or maybe even a BFS in short order that they can then use to build a mine. Basically, they can demonstrate the economics and justify financing a mine build. They also have initiated a lot of the permitting work. Okay, so they've been jumping ahead in that space and getting the right people in place, doing the right technical work in the field to get this thing up and ready. Okay, they're doing this with a backdrop also, don't forget, of an increased focus on expanding infrastructure into the Yukon, into the region. You're seeing things like Fireweed, for example, announced that they've got support to build a road out to their site, which would go not too far away from the Valley project here. So a lot of exciting momentum heading in the right direction. All right, so in terms of the advancement of the project, I have full confidence that Scott, Craig, and their team can take this project forward to ultimately become a mine. I think that's very, very important for any junior company to demonstrate that they have that kind of ability. Financing, I'm absolutely certain that this is financeable. Given the robust economics, this has got to be one of these projects that I would imagine every mine finance group on the planet would be queued up to jump at. So that's great. Now, what else do they have going? Okay, now everybody likes to think of left-hand and right-hand side of the Lassonde curve. And, there's not much in between, but that's actually not the case with Snowline. A minute ago, you had the map up showing their property position across the east central Yukon, and it's absolutely immense. Okay, they have a large inventory of targets. These are reduced intrusive type targets, like the ones at Valley, that they're exploring. And even recently, like last week, they put out a news release announcing progress on 5 of those, I think 5 or 6 of those projects. This is not a story that's done by any stretch. They have additional targets, all similar in scale and scope to the Valley project that they're testing this year. I'm very anxious to see what kind of news they generate from those. But they also have another interesting discovery, and that is to the east of the Valley deposit itself. In fact, within the same intrusive complex, they have found a new zone of gold mineralization. Okay, so they've actually found another deposit just a few hundred meters to the east of Valley. Okay, and that's often the way it goes with these systems. While Valley is an exceptional deposit, very continuous, very good continuity in terms of grade and stuff, it's not surprising to see another discovery right nearby. There's almost always a clustered nature to these types of systems. And I think that the reduced intrusive mineralization they've hit to the east, we don't have assays, but I think just based on the visuals, I think it looks a heck of a lot like Valley, and it could be a very, very important turning point for the company in terms of adding yet another another deposit, but also another deposit immediately adjacent to Valley that can continue to grow this story.
I think that's so important too, because people will play that Lassonde curve and they'll think, okay, they're coming closer to, fully outlining what they've got. But like you said, that August 7th, that was going to be one of my main questions. Was they flagged this target here, and what I was going to ask is if they hit kind of the same type of continuity there, this would likely make it more just of a pit shell material to that kind of structure rather than just a peripheral target. Like it could become something fairly quickly. So you'd want to stay in. You don't want to necessarily get out and play the curve too much, because this thing is looking good for a very close by target.
It is. It's on the eastern edge of what's perceived as the intrusion right now, is where they've hit this mineralization. But I'm going to point out something. I was actually brought to my attention by a friend of mine who likes to really comb through data, and he looked through some data. I think it was in their 43-101 report from a few years ago, where there are surface samples in the vicinity of this newly announced drill hole. There's surface samples in there that actually hit multigram gold, at surface. Okay, so and if you look at, it's a big footprint. There's a lot more going on out to the east than I think anybody understands right now, and they're just starting to get into it. So very exciting.
I just throw this out there because I can say these things and just put the what if game, because there'll be lots of people going what if, and I was kind of wondering who next door or near or anybody that could afford to would be looking at something like this. And you don't have to comment because I don't want to put you on the spot, but I thought, well, Kinross might be interested because this is a geological fit. They've got Fort Knox replacement ounces they need to do, or of course, Newmont. They've got they could double down on the Yukon assets as well. So there's lots of possibilities of big enough, strong enough, interested enough. Never mind that they don't need to. I mean, they can go full ahead and do it themselves. But I'm sure there's people paying very, very large attention to them as well right now.
I'm certain of that. Look, there's a lot of in dynamic, motion right now in the Yukon. You got the situation with the Eagle deposit, and who's going to end up owning that. I think that's now formally up for sale. You've got a lot of other stories that are quickly emerging, some of which we'll talk about here shortly. This is the kind of jurisdiction. I will go back to what I said like 3 or 4 years ago when Snowline first made this discovery. There's a district here. Okay, this is not just a one-off discovery. There's going to be an entire district that unfolds. And if anything, this is kind of ground zero for the gold industry in terms of new deposits for this cycle. I think this is going to be a very important jurisdiction for M&A.
Excellent. Well, listen, we could go on and talk more and more, but we want to cover enough of these companies here so people get a good catch up to date. But we'll stick in Yukon, and we'll jump to Sitka Gold, which we've spoken to as well. They've got the Tombstone Gold Belt in the Yukon. They're advancing multiple intrusion-related gold systems, and including this third target. Is it Rhosgobel? Is that what it's called?
Rhosgobel. Yeah.
Rhosgobel. Yeah. And their first hole was 164.8 meters at 0.82 gold near surface, plus lots of higher grade zones. Another major interest there in August, as well as an update. Tell us what's your thoughts on Sitka overall, where they're at here at this time of the drill season.
Okay, look, I did get to visit Sitka about 5 or 6 weeks ago as part of that tour with the Yukon Mining Association. And I really got a good picture of what they're doing, what they're targeting, and the potential of the property. I've used the upside cow analogy to describe, how the deposits are distributed. But basically, you're seeing a whole bunch of small intrusions, small reduced granite intrusions or granodiorite intrusions come up. And collectively, they comprise a number of targets that, in aggregate, I think is going to deliver a multi-million ounce gold inventory. Okay, we've already seen them drill Blackjack, Eiger, now the saddle zone between Eiger and Blackjack, and really see an astounding resource come to the fore. Something like 2.8 million ounces at a gram or so. But is that all? No. This Rhosgobel discovery, which is I think around 5 kilometers south of Blackjack, this thing looks like a beast of a discovery. It's, even this drill hole they came out with this week, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think it was 160 odd meters, of a bit over a gram. This smells like a brand new major discovery. It could be multi-million ounces. You got Pokemon, which is in between the two. There's another intrusion tucked in between those. I think that one could be. They haven't drilled. Well, they might be drilling there now. I don't know, but they weren't drilling there when I was there a few weeks ago. But I think their intent is to drill some more holes there. That already has early indications. That's another discovery. They have a number of other targets. I really like that Bear Paw Breccia target, which is kind of the southernmost target, simply because it looks like that's a very tippy top of a big system. What do I think? Well, I think that in aggregate, they're probably going to find, 4, 5, 6 deposits in close proximity to one another that are probably going to deliver an ounce inventory on the scale of Snowline, so I have very little doubt that this is going to turn into a major discovery. It's actually earlier stage, because they don't have they're not to a PEA level or anything like this. They're still drilling it. Okay, so people have to understand this is probably at 1 or 2 seasons behind Snowline. Okay. But I think it's easy to understand that this is the trajectory they're on.
Yes. That's why it's so great to have these ones that kind of look at different stages of the story or the growth. And I just want to take a step back, just so for someone, if they're new, they're just stumbling upon this, they don't know mining so well, maybe kind of explain these long, decent, 152 meters of 1 gram per ton gold, compared to when you hear the high, 50 grams over 0.1 meters. Explain why it's so important, this shallow length, why that matters, especially in this region.
Well, first of all, I mean, these are the grades in these systems are relatively continuous and predictable and, well behaved, we'll say. I mean, this is idyllic for an open pit mine scenario. Now, it's not to say that's all there is, because actually one of the things that, we at Crescat focused on back in 2023 when we jumped in was that they would drill some deeper holes, which they did at Blackjack, and they started hitting a higher grade. Is it bulk underground mineable? Well, I think so. I think there's good potential for that too. But the important takeaway is you have very large volumes of rock here that are well behaved. They're fairly continuous, predictable grades. They're consistent grades, and they make great ore bodies. I mean, these are the kind of deposits that big companies really like. They're predictable. They're not nuggety. They're not erratic. They're metallurgically friendly. The gold, as we know from Fort Knox, is readily recoverable through gravity and cyanide leaching. I mean, these are just dream deposits. Okay, these are the ones that everybody clamors for.
And this is obviously, very early to even be mentioning, but with a starter pit idea, could you do a starter pit with these multiple zones and whatnot? Sure. Yeah, that type of idea where people are kind of already thinking, listen, we're hitting some big grades here, some length here, and it is continuous. They're trying to imagine what this could be down the road, and it's not too early for these results.
No, this is likely a system that can deliver multiple open pits, be producing a few 100,000 ounces per year, similar scope and scale to Snowline in every regard. Correct.
And once again, Yukon, great region to be in as well for mining, which is a very big positive, especially when you're not just kind of exploration, hoping to hit some good numbers. This is no. These are advancing towards people need to be putting on their will this become a mine hat rather than just I hope we hit some good numbers here and exit a stock. This is we're on track here for something special.
Correct. Yes, very much so.
Beautiful. Well, we'll jump on to Goliath here as well. We've got some video because some of the guys sent me some video. I wasn't up there. I've been up there to the Goliath site. I know you have as well. You are the technical advisor to them as well. Lots going on with Goliath. Certainly, this is the layer cake or baklava analogy story that we'd love to talk about.
Yeah.
Give us, okay. and lots happening there. I mean, a huge drill program. What's your take as to where they are right now and how things are looking?
Yeah, look, I did communicate with the CEO a few days ago just to see where they're at with their schedule and ability to deliver on the meters they anticipate drilling this year. And he says they're on track. I don't remember exactly how many drills it is they have operating. I think it's like 12 or something.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of drills on the hill, but these guys seem to have their systematics worked out in their drilling system. These targets, the high grade and other targets, systematically at this point. I think they're going to have an exceptionally good season. They're already, they've already made several announcements about results that have come in. You got to understand when you get 60,000 meters of drilling, or something, the samples are going to pile up. Okay, so I would expect we're going to see samples, assays coming in for months and months and months. But they seem to have it in hand, and they're giving their heck up there. I do get a little worried. I've seen the weather kind of turn wet here recently, which is a little bit of a worry. Maybe we're going to see an early fall. That might be one hindrance. I don't know. But otherwise, they're killing it.
And it's great to see that people like a company handling a major drill program like that in challenging environment. But it's also good for investors too, because they've had news from the re-logging of old data as well, which were revealing this new thesis, which is very exciting as well, which kept people really kind of targeted on them while they're drilling. And like you said, 90,000 meters of drill results coming in. That's probably going to take us into Christmas and past to Christmas as well, likely. So people will have lots of interest all throughout fall, getting into Christmas of what they're hitting, and huge stacked high grade structures, whether it's Surebet, Bonanza, Golden Gate, lots happening there. And it's fun to see some of the video of people up there. There's a bunch of analysts up there. You had mentioned you kind of liken it to some degree to Pogo in Alaska there.
Sure.
In our last video, and this visible gold, the vein thickness, and it really is once again one of these top tier companies that you guys at Crescat have identified years ago for quite some time, and that you all must be feeling quite chuffed at Crescat too, with a lot of the companies that you're working with.
Yeah, look, this story has evolved. It's one that's taken about 5 drill seasons. I think this is the 5th drill season, if I remember right, to kind of build up a head of steam. But at this point, the Pogo analogy I think is holding true. But I think it's actually we're starting to see some elements of this that are kind of unexpected, but actually quite good. Examples would be the fact that we have a lot of dikes that these are intrusive dikes that seem to host gold mineralization. We're seeing a lot of gold out into the calc-silicate rocks, basically the rocks that are cooked up around the intrusion. This thing has taken on a number of new forms that are really interesting. I mean, the inventory of gold mineralization here it's got to be one of the biggest systems I've seen in a long, long time. It's going to take a little while to sort it all out, like what constitutes a potentially economic deposit and stuff. But I think overall the endowment of this intrusive complex is absolutely astounding.
That's what we want to hear too, and I know that this year it's really trying to hit that magmatic Motherlode that people that they've highlighted. That's the goal with these dikes, are leading to this Motherlode. But the dikes are revealing a lot of like spectacular results in and of itself. So it's great to see that there's like this strong geological evidence and proof with this thesis moving forward. And for a retail investor, like what should they be paying attention to with them, other than obviously some strong assay results coming out in the next months ahead?
Well, look, the company is at an important juncture. I think after this year's drill season, they should be in some position to put a resource together. It might come out next year sometime. It's not like I don't want to promise like late this year or something that's crazy. But I do think that they'll be able to kind of wrap their mind around, a potential resource for some of these lodes. It's not going to be all inclusive because it just keeps growing. Like, I always hate to see a company jump the gun and put out a resource before it's ready. But my gut says that they should have a critical mass by the end of this season. I think we'll be in a place. What else? Well, they need to take other steps here. What does it mean? Probably doing a lot of more metallurgical work and some other work.
Yes.
They've announced recently that they are looking at putting an adit in, things like this. These are big steps, but they're going to be needed for a big project like this.
Well, we've got our eyes on that one quite a bit. We really like it. I love that story of the adit too, because for people to visualize what that would look like and what opportunity it gives them for drilling, theoretically, in the winter is very cool for someone just engineering speaking wise to think that could be done as well. It's a great story, if nothing else, to follow that adit along.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it might take a little while. I don't want to tell people it's going to happen tomorrow, but it's the right step in the right direction. We got to see this project advance, and that means getting access, getting an adit in, something where they can drill year round from underground. That would be absolutely idyllic.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, let's jump into Juggernaut Exploration as well. And this one is the earliest stage, but certainly this big one, it's definitely a smoke show. It's looking good at the this very, very first step. They're kind of positing it as its 11-kilometer highway of gold. Dozens of exposed, kind of systems that they think they've identified. Lots of, kind of grab samples and whatnot from this kind of thing jutting out from the snow. Very interesting. Classic, very early stage, but what's your thoughts? My thoughts, who cares? But let's just hear from you when you see the big one here, when you see Juggernaut, what are your thoughts?
Okay, importantly, I want to kind of put it in context of what we just talked about at Goliath. Okay, this system that they appear to have found at Juggernaut, big one, is actually geologically is very similar in many respects to the Surebet system at Goliath. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it means there's likely an igneous connection, meaning the mineralization is derived from auriferous magmas in the area, and if anything, the age, the composition, basically the style of magmatism that we see at Juggernaut looks a heck of a lot like what we see at Surebet. In fact, I think if anything, this discovery is kind of confirming the overall thesis that there is this unique period of magmatism in geologic history in the Golden Triangle, in this region, that's generated gold deposits. Now, why I bring this up is because prior to this, people did not view intrusions of this particular age to be all that prospective for gold. It turns out that it is, okay? And Juggernaut is kind of proof of concept. So, what are we looking at? Probably an early stage Surebet type discovery. Is it bigger? Is it smaller? I don't know yet, because they haven't really given us enough information. It's not meant to be a criticism. It's just meaning the first season of field work. Okay. So I think give it a few months and we can digest some data. And I think you'll see that this turns out to be a, Surebet 2 type discovery.
That's what, and that's why I love we've got these kind of tiered, different stages of companies, and a lot of smoke on this one. And it's located near Galore Creek, which is always nice as well. It's nice to see that it's kind of jutting out the system, and there's lots of potential there. It's at surface discovery, and certainly, it's got lots of eyes on it because it's got a lot of potential here. And once again, this is like a sister company to Goliath, which is
look at the scale of the veins in these images. I mean, that's a beautiful shot. Like over here on the right hand side, you can see 5 meter thick. I mean, that looks like a Surebet scale.
Yeah.
And the grades are very similar. It's 16 gram gold equivalent. It's got a significant component of silver, not necessarily silver dominant, but there's a silver kicker to go with this. In every way, shape, and form, you could swap out photographs, and that looks like Surebet to me.
Yeah, no, and that's very cool. And it's dozens of these newly exposed, kind of areas that are very visible. And it's neat to see the picture too, when you see a person there and you see the size and scope of the system. It's hard not to get excited once again for this kind of early stage one. And it's rare when you have these ones that are, it is a greenfield. I mean, partially because, like you said, people didn't think, well, we'll really attack these types of targets. And also the glacial recession. So, there's not a lot of new ground to pick over to find stuff. Yet, you've got both Goliath and Juggernaut with exposed new systems that have really, caught the eye and really proven themselves.
That's a good point about the glacial exhumation here. Basically, as the glaciers have receded, this particular region or this higher elevation regime within the Golden Triangle is slowly coming to light. As the ice melts back, we see these things. That's how Surebet was discovered. That's how this has been discovered. Even in other areas, like I'm working with SK, and we're starting to see similar types of veins and likely intrusive connection in the southern part of the SK consolidated SK project, which is part of SK mining. So I think we're going to see new discoveries come out of the Golden Triangle just by virtue of the fact that the ice is melting.
Excellent. Well, listen, we really appreciate you spending the full hour with us, getting your advice, your technical advice, and your overall take on the geology and what's happening. All four stocks have been doing fantastic. You guys have been talking about it for years, so it's nothing new out there for people watching, but it's a great chance for us to catch up, to see where we're at in the summer here, and to remind people sometimes why they're in a stock. Like sometimes they forget, they go, "Hey, why do I own this?" And it's nice when they have someone remind them that, listen, the story's not over yet. Like, hang in there. There's more happening, and that's good because often, and this isn't talk about stock or stock price. Knowing when to sell a stock is just as hard as knowing when to buy one. And we need to be sure at what stage we are in a story. And it's great to see different stages here, but at the same time, they're all growing. And that's quite exciting.
It is. And we're going into a gold bull.
Yes. I mean, that's what's your take. I mean, I don't see any indication in any economic theory or model out there that, there isn't still concern. There's some chaos and there's a desperate, more and more attention at a retail level as well. I mean, even just YouTube shows I watch in between, they're selling like gold bars, like all these, YouTubers that are doing news and whatnot. It's getting out there quite a bit on a retail scale.
It is. It's nice to see. It's been years since we've seen anything quite like this. I think, the focus has been, just like you said, on the direct, access to gold and stuff amongst most people up to this point. But as people learn more and more about other things, like, hey, there's these junior mining companies that, give us leverage to rising gold price. I think that's just starting to happen. I don't think we're in the full on bull yet, but we're going to get there. I guess what I'd say is I don't have a crystal ball and I don't pretend to even guess where the gold price might head. But what I like to see is a nice steady price increase. And this is for gold, silver, it doesn't matter anything. That shows resilience. And that's what I see is that, gold, it might fall $100 over a couple of days, but guess what? It finds support and then it starts climbing up again. Yeah. And that's the kind of, it's the wall of worry thesis, right? It's everybody gets paranoid when the price of gold falls $100 over a few days, but then, 4 days later, it's back up where it was, if not higher. And everybody's, back in the saddle. I think we're going to see this for a while. I don't, it feels to me like we're in the early innings, but, we'll see.
No, it certainly. I mean, I'm pretty bullish on it, and it's nice to see too. For a separate conversation, but a lot of the producers doing very well. Some of them getting their all-in sustaining costs, pulling it back a bit, doing quite well, while we're getting these excellent prices and having that steady increase. I mean, if you look at a chart of like 7 years, that's a very, very nice chart for gold.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's
awesome. Amazing.
Who can come? I know there was 2 or 3 years there where it was just painful. It's like watching paint dry, but. In all reality, what we need is sustained, steady growth in prices and really a sustained improvement in margins in the gold mining industry. And that's what's going to do us more good than anything. We don't need price spikes and stuff like that. We need nice, steady improvement in overall margin.
Fantastic. Well, I'll let you go, Dr. Hennigh. Thank you so much for spending the time. It's always a pleasure, and it's great to pick your brain and really get a take from you and to share it with all our subscribers and do people that we reach out to. So I thank you for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. Take care.
All the best. Take care.
Bye-bye.